Lee's his name. Movies is his game. You're listening to 30 with Lee. Now kick back, baby, and enjoy.
And what's going on, boys and girls? Lee Sanders, Tammy Sanders here. You're checking out a new 30 with Lee. It's great to be back with a new season, honestly, of 30 with Lee. We could have easily been pumping out some new episodes all over the place, but honestly, with the pandemic, our personal schedules, on top of the shows that we're already putting out there for you guys when we do collaborate, especially when it comes to putting exclusive content out there on Patreon, it is rare. It's been rare that we've been able to sit down and do an edition of 30 with Lee, but we're doing it for very good reason because we're talking about here on this episode, Spider-Man No Way Home. It officially dropped this week. They did their red carpet and everything. Some of you guys were lucky enough to see this as early as Tuesday, from what I had gathered through social media outlets, while most folks it was Wednesday and some folks definitely Thursday, but Friday was all hands on deck. And we actually ended up seeing a Friday morning showing of Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, I want to let you guys know off the break because I want to look out for those that have not seen the movie just yet. We will be going into spoilers. Again, we will be going into spoilers. So we will definitely, before we dive into something, we will definitely say spoiler alert. Just got to say that because the one thing that has been so heartbreaking after we've seen Spider-Man No Way Home, I want to really make sure we're setting this up properly because I remember when Marvel president Kevin Feige originally told folks about Spider-Man No Way Home as far as being asked, hey, what's going on with the marketing campaign? What's going on with trailers? Yada, yada, yada. Kevin Feige basically said, nah, you know what? We're going to show you guys how the logo lettering looks for the upcoming Spider-Man No Way Home. But other than that, no trailers, nothing. We want you guys to go into this just based off of everything that you know. Most of you MCU fans have probably checked out the What If series, Loki, Hawkeye, WandaVision. You guys have probably made your rounds checking all of that out. You guys should be good to go and just enjoy Spider-Man in real time with everybody else. No trailers, no nothing. You hear that and you go, wow, that is a really nice, refreshing concept. We really don't get that enough. Okay, cool. And I actually, and Tams can vouch for me, I actually stayed in the dark. The only thing I knew about this Spider-Man movie, spoiler alert, was that Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything else that was going on. Now, as the months had progressed, I heard, spoiler alert, rumblings of Doc Ock. But that was it. I have, knock on wood, I managed to stay in the dark. And I know, right? How were you able to pull that off, Lee? Because you've got to go online, and especially when you're prepping for shows, how did you manage to do all of that? And I did not seek it. And anybody that I maybe came across that were friends with me on social media, I actually muted them so that I would not see their posts. There were actually certain people way before that I felt, okay, this person's always going to be talking about something Marvel related or comics related. Let me just go ahead and mute them, and I'll just unmute them once I'm done seeing the movie, and which I have. And then there's some people that, I make my rounds, listen to podcasts too. Okay, yeah, they definitely are going to be talking about Let Me Dodge That. So it really isn't that hard when you stop to think about it. But how did you manage? Were you in the same dark as I was, or did you?
Mostly yes, because for me, that isn't something that really shows up on my timeline. So, but there's this really funny story, kind of, again, spoiler alert. We actually ended up talking about it for just a brief second. And I started to have this one sentence. And Lee was like, no, don't say it. I don't want to know. I don't care what it is. Save it. I said, okay. And that was that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were going to be in this Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's interesting. So, and that's honestly, that's all I knew.
Yeah. It's really sad. It's really sad that in the society that we're in now, especially something that we've talked about all year, as far as media consumption goes and everything, so many fans want that instant gratification. They don't want to wait in the dark. They want to know, oh, you're good. You dare give me a movie and I don't get no trailer and I don't get this and I don't get that, and unfortunately somebody leaked out some stuff. And then Kevin Feige and crew, they had no choice but to release something officially. And, it's heartbreaking. What's even more heartbreaking, I just saw this literally before we got ready to record. And me and shout out to my friend and Julian Cannon from Wrestling Court, we were kind of going back and forth about this. But, it's really sad that you have individuals that just have to, I got to get those clicks. I got to get those clicks. I got to be at the center of attention. And I got to show the moment that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire popped up and motherfuckers are just spamming the fuck out of it on YouTube and everything. And see, the way YouTube works, sadly, as most people know, whatever you search for, and then you end up watching that type of content,
they give you
every time you come back is going to be recommended. So now, people are going to be in that position, and it's most sad. It's most sad. It's like, don't ruin it for folks, right?
Don't seek it out.
Yeah, right.
No, what I'm saying is don't ruin it for the folks who actually want to have the experience of finding it out firsthand for themselves while seeing the movie versus just, spamming it out all over the place.
Exactly.
Grant you, yes, you have your group of people who are going to want to see that.
Right.
And because they just can't wait or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But that's also, because it's being spammed out like that, it's ruining it for the people who don't want that.
Agreed. And so our best advice to you, anybody that's thinking about seeing this Spider-Man movie during this COVID period that we're in right now, if you've done a successful job in not being connected to all things social media, really, and you haven't been going out of your way to seek out, like, I know it can be hard. I know it can be challenging. There's been times where if I even saw something Marvel related, I just instantly looked for the mute the post and I didn't even see any of the information. That's just how I kept doing it. But if it's your intention to see Spider-Man in the next coming days or in the next couple of weeks, try to do your very best to kind of, if you can, lay low from social media. And definitely, to Tam's point, definitely don't seek out, because if you seek, you will find, and you may not like what you end up finding, but yeah, it's so sad that we already got people that's spoiling it, people trying to record the real-time reactions to, when those pivotal scenes came about. And it's like, it really takes away from, one, actually being there in person. That's the stuff that memories are made of, because you can't replicate that and everything. And then number two, you're really ruining it for, that next person, right? But a lot of people, all they can think about, some people, not all, but some people can only think about themselves and all that. But so Spider-Man, definitely just wanted to open up with that, because that was just something that was kind of nerve-wracking. Let me know you all's thoughts and how, we're curious how you guys had managed and everything. This film, directed by John Waltz and written by Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, Tom Holland, Zendaya, Benedict Cumberbatch, Jacob Batalon, John Ferreira, Jamie Foxx, William Defoe, Alfred Molina, Benedict Wong, Marissa Tomei, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire. This was a loaded up freaking movie. And I gotta tell you, this for me was most likely one of the best trilogy movies I've seen in quite some time. Dare I say, it outranks The Dark Knight Rises. Dare I say, it outranks Back to the Future Part 3. Dare I say, it outranks Godfather Part 3, right? You just are going over just all the trilogies in your head there. And it tops because that has always been so challenging for a movie franchise. We've seen every single movie franchise since the 80s struggle when it comes to that third flick, because it's okay, what you did for the first one, awesome. And that sequel, oh man, okay, all right, even better than the original. Okay, all right, nice. But man, the magic is gone when you get to that third one. And man, by the fourth, fifth one, you are just milking it for that freaking quarterly revenue, right? That's pretty much, or that yearly revenue. That's pretty much how it's all about. But they really did a good job in this script, for one. Yes. And then in the way they were able to navigate all of these personalities, because now that we're looking back in retrospect, it's like, wow, how the hell were they able to pull that off? Because we've seen previous Spider-Man movies, Tobey Maguire, definitely, Andrew Garfield, definitely, in regards to their respective Spider-Man sequels. There was just say, okay, you got way too much that's going on, way too much. There's not that fine balance, and it's very confusing, and it's coming off very flat. And yet we didn't get any of that experience in No Way Home.
No, not at all. Everything was culminated so nicely for this movie in reference to bringing all the personalities that they brought, all the villains that they brought, and the current characters that were on there. It, like I said again, culminated so nicely. And kudos to the people who wrote that script.
Yeah, and I mean, not for nothing, they definitely had a couple of source materials there that they were able to borrow from. I mean, we'd be here all night if we went over the various ways that Aunt May had discovered, minus the movie cinema, Aunt May had discovered that Spider-Man was in fact Peter Parker. We would be here all night when we would reference, oh, remember Amazing Spider-Man 400 when Aunt May died? Or how about that time when, there was definitely the source material. If you know your Spider-Man comics, you were able to go, okay, they borrowed from this. And I was telling you right after the movie, I said, a big bulk of what they did there towards the end with Spider-Man and that decision he made himself. He came to his own conclusion and he told Doctor Strange, hey, look, this is how I need it to go down. They borrowed that. It was a nice spin, though. They borrowed it from the infamous One More Day storyline. And it's interesting because a lot of Spider-Man fans, they look at that and they go, man, that's one of the worst stories ever for the wall crawler. And they look at it as one of the worst storylines ever because what came out of it at the end. You may be interested in checking this out for those of you that's not familiar with the One More Day storyline. But basically, Peter Parker strikes a deal with the devil Mephisto to save his dying aunt. And I thought for sure somehow that maybe was going to be incorporated. Not seeing Mephisto on full screen, but somehow it would have been translated to Doctor Strange. Okay, I can do this, I can do that, but this is what's going to happen. I thought maybe we were going to go in that direction, but it didn't. So in the One More Day story arc, in return, Mephisto goes on ahead and he's like, okay, I'll do this for you, but it's going to cost you. I want the most precious thing that you have, which is your love for Mary Jane Watson, because he felt that it was the rarest, purest form of love. So what Mephisto ends up doing, he rewrites history so that the marriage never happens. He brings back Aunt May, but in the process, marriage. So all that history between Peter Parker, Mary Jane, it never freaking happens. So now we have Doctor Strange that is pretty much in that position, right? And then you also got the concluding chapter of One Moment in Time, where Iron Man's extremist technology have affected the world with a virus-infused spell that was made by Doctor Strange and Mr. Fantastic. And that had made everyone except for Peter Parker and Mary Jane forget Spider-Man's secret identity. You got to check that respective story arc too. So there's a lot that they were borrowing from in here that they pulled off exceptionally well. And, it's been a good minute since we've seen Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange. And I know how taken back you and I were with the first Doctor Strange, just to see his interactions with Spider-Man. I mean, he's done an even more phenomenal job. And I think that speaks to the actor, because he's so much more comfortable in this role now that it's just leap years compared to when you saw what he was doing in the first Doctor Strange.
Agreed.
Not for nothing. We've seen him, over the years, but he just feels more gravitas. Like, the best way I can describe Doctor Strange this go round for you guys, he truly feels more like the Sorcerer Supreme, even though he actually technically does not have that title, because you'll find out, right? You'll find that out. But yeah, he just feels more okay. He knows and he is just whereas before, when we were first introduced to Doctor Strange, he was this very confused young man, always asking these questions. And it was great that he was always questioning things, but he there was that apprehension. He didn't fully embrace. Right. And now he is just, it's this, it's matter of fact. It's we're doing this and that's it.
Yeah. It's Lee saying, he is the comfortability there, and just even some of the, the one-liners and stuff that he's saying in the movie that just makes you know that he's more comfortable. Obviously it's in the writing as well, but it was very refreshing to see him in this. And also, other than that, I actually was in the theater thinking, oh yeah, and just kind of reminded of the first Doctor Strange, in some of the scenes that we were watching. Yeah,
and I tell you what they laid down, the foundation that they laid down for Spider-Man No Way Home, great setup, as we saw for Doctor Strange's next movie.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, not
so much spoiler alert, but basically you get a couple of things at the end of the movie that you'd want to stick around for. Yeah, because all that they had showed, those were legit scenes, I personally feel, from the movie. There's Easter eggs, and then they literally just showed us a trailer for the movie, and that was a full blown trailer that they did. So key things to keep in mind about this movie, real quickly. This picks up 1 week after the entire world finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And so we see the struggles that Peter is going through, as well as those that are associated with him.
close friends, close allies, as they are pretty much suffering as well. And this really eats at Peter. It eats at him so much that he's trying to figure out ways to make it right. And he ultimately finds himself at the doorstep of Dr. Stephen Strange to try to figure out a way to make his Spider-Man identity there, try to make it secret. He doesn't want anybody to know that he's really Peter Parker. So they come up with this spell. And as a result of this spell, it somehow inadvertently opens up the multiverse. And it basically allows from 5 supervillains from alternate realities who have all respectfully fought their own version of a Peter Parker / Spider-Man onto that reality, right? Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing, and I can't stress this enough. In order to really, because I feel it's essential viewing, you guys have got to check out Loki. If you have not checked out the Loki series yet, some of this stuff, especially if you've never collected the comics before and all of that, and you're strictly into, the live action stuff and you've yet to watch Loki, you've really got to watch Loki, because by the end of that 6-episode arc, you go, okay, to the point. And I can't wait to see how things go into Doctor Strange's next movie. But the way I interpret from the conclusion of Loki, the multiverse was already messed up. So the spell that Doctor Strange was trying to cast, well, you already had the ripple effect of that multiverse. And I'm sure those of you that saw Loki, you would definitely agree with me. Yeah, actually, Lee, that's actually spot on. So I don't see enough people that's bringing that point up, but Loki is critical to checking out. So check out Loki. You may even want to check out Eternals too. I would even kind of consider, given the ending, the Easter eggs, I would even kind of give a nod to the Eternals within reason, but Loki is definitely essential viewing there. So, it was interesting. I don't want to get into it about, well, I'll tell you what, Alfred Molina, it was great seeing him come back as Doc Ock, because I thought he did the best interpretation of and the only interpretation of Dr. Octopus, but it was the best one. William Defoe's Green Goblin, loved William Defoe as Green Goblin. And it just goes to show you, William Defoe will do anything as long as the money is right. We see him doing stuff for DC. We see him doing stuff for Marvel. I like the way that he's able to just bounce around like that. That's good stuff. Jamie Foxx even getting redemption as Electro this go round. Because, I mean, let's be honest, the way his character came off, it was a bit weak sauce when we saw him in the Amazing Spider-Man sequel there. It was a case where I felt like I was watching a black version of Jim Carrey's Riddler in Batman Forever. I felt it was weak sauce along those lines. So to see Jamie Foxx's Electro get a redeeming arc right here. All of these guys that we're mentioning, by the way, nice nod to the Sinister Six, which was one of the most evilest stables to ever form for the sole purpose of sticking it to Spider-Man. Doc Ock, Electro, Sandman, as well. Look it up, the Sinister Six, Vulture. Great stuff right there. But they kind of did a nice little nod to the Sinister Six in there, as well. But let's talk about the main guests of the party. The way that they came about bringing back Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, two beloved Spider-Men. After we saw how things pretty much collapsed with Tobey Maguire, if you would have told me, it's going to be a while before they even attempt Spider-Man again, I would have said to you, well, how the hell? Why? I mean, they got their Spider-Man right here. But then when they went with Andrew Garfield, it was, okay, well, he's pretty damn good. Oh, okay. I can, okay. Yeah, let's go there. And, we saw how, look, Andrew Garfield would still be Spider-Man to this very day. If it wasn't for that controversy that had went down some years back, he didn't get into no fender bender. He didn't get into a drunken little, there was nothing, nothing salacious that had went down. Basically, there was a big old, if I remember the story correctly, because I'm pulling off of cobweb memory here, I'll rely on you guys because it's great discussion. But if I remember correctly, there was supposed to be some type of a big Sony picture grand party or something along those lines. And Andrew decided, okay, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to go to that. I don't care about shit like that. And he tried to fake like he was sick or something along those lines as far as why he couldn't make it. And somehow it was revealed that was bullshit. And the next thing you know, that's how Andrew Garfield was out of a job. Right. So to see Andrew come back, Toby was fine. Toby, honestly, that Spider-Man franchise, they just really had hurt things by the time they got to Spider-Man 3 with Toby. They just.
Well, wasn't I under the impression that he was already having his health problems anyway with his back?
In real life, no.
Oh.
No, in real life, no. In real life, no. Spider-Man 3 under Tobey Maguire, it was such a bomb that because there were actually plans for Spider-Man 4. They had the preliminary script for it under Tobey Maguire. They had the preliminary script for it ready to go and everything. And they were just that confident that Spider-Man 3 was going to bring in
gangbusters.
Right. And it was very disappointing, poorly received by fans. And that pretty much made Sony Pictures say, okay, let's put the caboose on this bad boy. So to see Andrew and Toby come back, very redeeming, if you will.
Yeah,
very
for sure.
redeeming. Yeah.
I enjoyed that part as well. The funny thing is when you're in the moment and they're in the character, you really see the truest version. Is not so much for Tobey Maguire in like 3 or even some parts of 2 where it's like, oh, okay, that's nice, but kind of weak. But when you like in 1 and then you had Andrew Garfield and then obviously now Tom Holland, you always kind of feel like there's never going to be an actor who can portray it better. But the funny thing is, in each of these actors as portraying the same version, it does get better. Wouldn't you agree?
I would definitely agree. It would be no different than for you Star Trek fans out there, who's your favorite captain? And you will have a lot of people that will say James T. Kirk. You'll have a lot of people that will say Commander Benjamin Sisko. You'll have those that'll say Admiral or Captain Catherine Janeway. You'll have some that'll, I sadly have not watched enough of Star Trek Discovery, so I haven't even watched it yet. So I don't know the young black actress name that was on The Walking Dead and then ultimately she left to do the Star Trek Discovery series. But you got some people that really, really like her portrayal. Or Scott Bakula. What was his captain's name? I think Archer, maybe? Captain Archer was maybe his name. So, but you get all of those guys together in the same room.
And it's just pure magic.
Right. Nobody's overstepping.
Nope.
Right. Nobody's hogging it up. Right. It just flows so beautifully. And, I gotta say, because many times we've seen in the past, especially when it comes to some of these superhero movies, but just in general, when we've gotten to that third act and they've done this big old,
grand scheme marketing,
right. No. Oh. When they've done this big old, okay, we're going to have this person in it. They're going to be this. They're going to be that. They're going to be this. They're going to be that. What gets lost in the process is the emotional context.
Agreed.
And in this one, the emotional context stays intact.
Correct.
Even Jamie Foxx's Electro, there's gravitas to it. you know, and I really like that. Great scoring in this movie as well. So right now it looks like it's grossed over $93 million out of a budget of $200 million. I would not be shocked if you were to tell me first thing Tuesday that it does about $300 million. I wouldn't be surprised if you told me that. We shall see. We shall see.
Agreed. You know, the funny thing is, this is actually for us, myself and Lee, our first time back in the theater since COVID.
Yeah. And, you know, not to, because I know there's definitely those of you that probably like one of my Twitter buddies, they already told me off the break they have no intention of seeing Spider-Man in theaters despite how good it is. And they actually wanted to know what all had happened in the movie. So I got with them, DM'd, and, you know, I was picking their brain on what all they had knew, and, you know, they told me, and then I kind of filled in a couple of more blanks and everything. But I would not blame those that maybe have some type of a compromised immune system, or they just really are very leery about. I totally get that. Look, as far as our experience in the theater, seeing this movie, first movie pretty much since the pandemic has started, everybody was pretty respectable in the sense of they tried to sit basically with their respected loved ones, and they tried to sit in their own little zone, and people were trying to do their very best to leave spaces between seats unless it was kind of absolutely necessary and people pretty much had to sit next to each other or whatever. You just kind of had to go in hoping that, well, hopefully this person has COVID. But then the other thing was,
you mean doesn't have COVID?
Yeah, correct. Does not have COVID. But then the other thing was, you know, everybody mask on unless you're eating or drinking otherwise. And everybody was pretty, from what I was able to see, everybody was in compliance. So that still may not be comforting to some people. And I totally respect that. I totally get that. But I tell you what, from the moment that the movie came on, I didn't even think anything about COVID. It just felt like old times. Would I do it again? Yeah. At this point, I plan on checking out the new Matrix movie because I'm a big Matrix fan. I can tell you stories about each Matrix movie, what I was doing, how I ended up seeing it, especially 2 and 3. And so I'm very excited to go see The Matrix in theaters next. But if you're in a position where maybe you know somebody that works at the theater and maybe you can get the hookup. I know there was a time where AMC was actually renting out spaces. I don't know if they're still doing that, but that may be something you want to explore to see if maybe you might be able to see this movie, you know, as part of your little private group or whatever. But getting back to the movie, this was a good continuation of the phase 4 of the MCU. A lot of praise is out there. We're definitely echoing the same sentiments. It definitely lives up to the hype. Now, one thing I do want to tackle before we get ready to wrap it up here, there's a lot of the way this ends. You can't help but say to yourself, especially, and I don't know if a lot of people had peeped this out, but the costume that Tom Holland wears at the very end, what a great freaking nod to Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, which were the creators of Spider-Man. It's got that nice retro type of feel. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about and just go, oh yeah, Lee, that is the costume, right? It's got that nice retro feel to it. But I just found it so fitting that it ended like that, because I kind of got the vibe that's it for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Right down to the point, Tom Holland has said, look, if we're going to do another Spider-Man movie, we honestly should go in a direction where we're introducing Miles Morales. And if you guys have a PS4 and you've played the hell out of that Spider-Man Miles Morales game, I know a lot of people had pretty much got on to Spider-Man that way, or you've been reading up on your comics on him. This is what a lot of people want to see. It's so funny because he's actually not the first Spider-Man that's ethnic. That nod actually goes to Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, one of my favorite underrated Spider-Man characters of all time, just for the costume alone. But that's a different story. But Tom Holland said, look, if there's going to be another Spider-Man movie, let's begin his journey, right? Because he's really not too keen on the idea of pretty much being in his 30s, playing this young kid. You know, even though Spider-Man is now in his college years, I mean, you can pull it off. And to the point you had mentioned earlier, he's got a young look about him, so he could definitely pull it off. But the way they ended it, especially with the true Easter egg that you get, you at the post credits there, you could revisit Tom Holland's Spider-Man again. But if you're asking me straight up, is it needed? I think it's only needed if you're going to introduce Miles Morales. Unless you're going to do the next Spider-Man movie, pretty much do the next, my honest opinion, do the next Spider-Man movie the way Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark pretty much was introducing Tom Holland Spider-Man to the world.
Agreed.
That's how Tom Holland needs to be in that role for the next Spider-Man movie and properly introducing the Miles Morales Spider-Man and just take it from there. That's how I personally would do it. Would I like to see more of Tom Holland as Spider-Man? Oh, for sure. So like whatever's going to happen with this next phase in the Marvel movies, and maybe he's going to make an appearance somewhere, I'm down with that. But as far as a standalone Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, I just feel there's no need to go down that path. I just don't. Not unless you're maybe going to go in a direction where you do something with Spider-Man, Punisher, Daredevil. And the only reason why I mention that, we got to make sure we show love. The nod to Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock. That was just
so nice.
Yeah.
So nice to see that and revisit that character.
Yeah.
You know, cause I was I still am and was a big fan of the Daredevil series.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I mean, I know it's hard to dodge, but Hawkeye. Oh yeah. Shit's popping. That's all I gotta say. That is all I gotta say. That's all I am going to say. But that was a great nod. And to Kevin Feige's point, he pretty much had said recently in an interview, he was like, and I loved how he was so coy about it. Here's a guy through and through. He knows that there's spoilers and other stuff out there. Here he is saying, look, going forward, if we were to do anything with the Matt Murdock Daredevil character, Charlie Cox would be our guy going forward.
For sure.
This is Kevin Feige saying this, despite the fact that there's spoilers already out there and everything before the red carpet premiere. Right. Okay. And then to actually see in the first like 15, 20 minutes of the movie, holy shit, it's Charlie Cox. Right. That is just freaking badass. And, you know, I would not be surprised if we were to see Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock have even more future interactions there with Spider-Man, because in the comics, Spider-Man and Daredevil have done a lot of teaming up. Usually when Peter gets into some type of legal trouble or whatever, Murdock is always there for him. And then I want to mention another name so bad, but I'll say it in this standpoint. From this standpoint, they share a common enemy. Okay? They share a common enemy. So that would be another interesting way I feel. I'm just going to throw it out there. If you were to do another Spider-Man movie, you got to set it up in a way where not only you're dealing with Miles Morales, but what could be pretty much like the central point of that, I feel Kingpin. And somehow that integrates Charlie Cox's Daredevil right? That's the direction I'm going in. Right? If you're going to go there, then you got to tell one riveting story. But I'm curious what you guys think about it. So sound off. Let us know about your own ideas. But Spider-Man No Way Home, kicking off this Christmas holiday season, definitely gets a major thumbs up. I think this is probably the first time I've ever given a movie, if I were to do the number scale there, 1 being crap, 10 being awesome sauce. Honestly, I gotta give it a 10 out of 10. I find even if I were to try to nitpick. Yeah. So yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home, definitely a 10 out of 10. How would you rate it?
I pretty much the same. I can't find a thing to say about it that I didn't like or anything like that. So I would give it a 10 out of 10.
And then what do you think about Tom Holland coming back for a full Spider-Man movie? Are you content as a fan that's not really into the comics like that, but you've seen all the Marvel Cinema movies? Would you want more Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, or are you okay at this point? Just honestly, hey, it is what it is. Anytime I can check them out.
I'm split down the road with it. I'm okay with it for the most part. Is with everything that's already happened, the storyline that we've just had with No Way Home. For him, I think that was a perfect, spoiler alert, send off, if that is the way they choose to go. Now, if he chooses to reprise his role, then I'm okay with that too. I like him as an actor. I think he's done a fantastic job with his current role. So to be honest with you, I'm okay either way.
Yeah, definitely. Sound off. Let us know what you all had thought about Spider-Man No Way Home. Most curious. And we did tease it earlier. We will be coming back with another 30 with Lee edition. We'll be talking about that new Matrix movie. Very excited for that. Advanced tickets are available right now. So you guys that's trying to get those tickets, get that ball rolling right now. I got a feeling that's going to be one of the hottest tickets. I can't wait to hear how Matrix does compared to Spider-Man No Way Home, because we're talking 1 week apart. Is Spider-Man going to be able to continue to reign supreme and hold on to that number 1 spot? Or is Matrix going to come in its opening weekend and freaking dethrone Spidey? I can't wait to see. I've never been curious about those kind of matchups before. Normally it's just, oh, this is out, cool. But I'm very, very curious, because when all of those Matrix movies, especially when it came to 2 and 3, because remember, folks, Matrix 2 and 3 was released within 6 months of each other. I still remember it as clear as day. 6 months from each other within the same year. And man, the money that they had brought in. And they were number 1 for I don't know how many weeks. I don't know, man. I'm excited. I can't wait to see how this is going to be going, because I just kind of feel as though it could go back and forth. I kind of feel as though 1 week it could be Matrix, and then the next week it could be Spider-Man, and then it could go back to Matrix, and then maybe Spider-Man has it for 2 weeks. I kind of feel like they're going to be jockeying for the number 1, 2 position for the next several weeks. So we'll see what happens. Hey, shout out to our Patreon members, and hey, man, shout out to you guys that's going to be checking this out on YouTube. If you guys have enjoyed this, please definitely sound off, share your thoughts, but also make sure you hit that like button. When you do that, you really help spread the word about the content and have more eyeballs be on our product in the process. Feel free to hit that subscribe button as well. That way you never miss out on great content like this we do for you guys on a regular basis. Click the bell icon so you never miss out. You get every notification of new content. Get at us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Use the keywords the RCWR Show. She's the beautiful and lovely Tammy Sanders here. We're wishing all of y'all to be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. We'll see you next go round. Adios.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. An Infinity One Productions presentation, keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive.